Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
I'm so in love with you. And thanks to the extraordinary men and women in uniform and our intelligence agencies, al-Qaeda is weaker than it's ever been, and Osama bin Laden will never walk this earth again. That's what change is. A new tower rises above the New York skyline. Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat, and Osama bin Laden is dead.
You have to ask yourself, what are American officials trying to understand about this, and whether or not that these are related? This notion that it's about a movie, Anderson, there have been calls for the protest in Cairo. This has been, the Egyptian officials understood there was a protest planned. How did this day get picked, and how did it wind up in two places? And to have lost an American, I think we shouldn't underestimate the significance of this.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you the Secretary of State, the Honorable Hillary Rodham Clinton.
This has been a difficult week for the State Department and for our country. We've seen the heavy assault on our post in Benghazi that took the lives of those brave men. We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
Let's bring in the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Dr. Susan Rice. Dr. Rice, thank you for joining us.
Good to be with you, Jake.
So, first of all, what is the latest you can tell us on who these attackers were at the embassy or at the consulate in Benghazi? We're hearing that the Libyans have arrested people. They're saying that some people involved were from outside the country, that there might have even been al-Qaeda ties. What's the latest information?
Well, Jake, first of all, it's important to know that there's an FBI investigation that has begun and will take some time to be completed. That will tell us with certainty what transpired. But our current best assessment, based on the information that we have at present, is that, in fact, what this began as was a spontaneous, not a premeditated, response to what had transpired in Cairo. In Cairo, as you know, a few hours earlier, there was a violent protest that was undertaken in reaction to this very offensive video that was disseminated.
Was information developing? Was the situation fluid? Would we reach conclusions later that weren't reached initially? And I appreciate the...
Madam Secretary, do you disagree with me that a simple phone call to those evacuees to determine what happened wouldn't have ascertained immediately that there was no protest? I mean, that was a piece of information that could have been easily obtained.
Well, but Senator,
within hours, if not days.
Senator, when you're in these positions, the last thing you want to do is interfere with any other process going on.
I realize that's a good excuse.
Number two, well, no, it's the fact. Number two, I would recommend highly you read both what the ARB said about it and the classified ARB, because even today there are questions being raised. Now, we have no doubt they were terrorists, they were militants, they attacked us, they killed our people. But what was going on and why they were doing what they were doing
Again, we were misled that there were supposedly protests and then something sprang out of that, an assault sprang out of that. And that was easily ascertained that was not the fact. And the American people could have known that within days, and they didn't know that.
With all due respect, The fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make? It is our job to figure out what happened and do everything we can to prevent it from ever happening again, Senator. Now, honestly, I will do my best to answer your questions about this, but the fact is that people were trying in real time to get to the best information. The IC has a process, I understand, going with the other committees to explain how these talking points came out. But, you know, to be clear, it is, from my perspective, less important today, looking backwards, as to why these militants decided they did it, than to find them and bring them to justice. And then maybe we'll figure out what was going on in the meantime.
His name is Muhammad.
It was called The Innocence of Muslims, a film that portrayed the Prophet Muhammad as a philanderer and a thug. A 14-minute movie trailer launched protests across the Muslim world. But it decidedly was not to blame for the attacks on the U.S. diplomatic and CIA compounds in Benghazi, Libya, despite early comments from President Obama and other senior administration officials blaming the attacks on the movie made by Egyptian-American filmmaker Nakula Nakula. Just days after the attacks, Nakula was called before a judge to discuss whether his role in making the movie, such as by using the internet without prior approval, violated the terms of his probation. He had previously served time on an unrelated bank fraud conviction. Nakula ended up being sent back to prison. He was released last week, and he currently lives in a halfway house, the location of which he does not want disclosed. But now he's speaking out. I called him and asked him how he felt when the Obama administration initially blamed him for the attacks in Benghazi.
I get shocked.
You were shocked? Why?
Yes, because, you know, I never thought my movie can cause anyone trouble or anyone can get killed from my movie.
Do you think that the Obama administration put you in danger by blaming the attack on you?
No comment.
Would you describe yourself as in hiding?
No. The government hide me.
The government's hiding you.
Hiding, yes.
Nakula told me he does not hold a grudge against President Obama for initially blaming his movie.
President Obama, I like him personally. I don't blame him. He has a lot of responsibility. We need to make separate between the president and the administration.
Are you mad at Hillary Clinton for what she said about the movie?
No comment.
He says he has this message for the Obama administration.
Before you do anything, please give yourself time to think about it. Because you are responsible people, you are in a place you have to be responsible in.
When you say that, it sounds like you think that the administration was irresponsible when they blamed the video.
What do you think?
I think that you think that they were irresponsible.
Yes, of course. That's what I mean.
Nakula, a Coptic Christian, a group oppressed in Egypt, insists his film is not against Islam, but rather is against terrorism. He says he does not feel any responsibility for violent protests of the movie. You don't feel any responsibility for that?
My movie is not a religion movie. It's a political more than religion. I never be against any religion. I have a Muslim friend. I am against the terrorism culture. I am against the terrorism culture. I am against Osama bin Laden. I am against Zawahiri. I am against Nidal Hassan. I am against Boston Bomber.
Do you think that Islam is a religion that promotes terrorism?
No comment.
It was interesting what else Ms. Newland said that day. She said, if pressed by the press, if there's a connection between Cairo and Benghazi, she said this: there's no connection between the two. So here's what troubles me. Your experts knew the truth. Your spokesperson knew the truth. Greg Hicks knew the truth. But what troubles me more is I think you knew the truth. I want to show you a few things here. You're looking at an email you sent to your family. Here's what you said. At 11 o'clock that night, approximately 1 hour after you told the American people it was a video, you say to your family, 2 officers were killed today in Benghazi by an al-Qaeda-like group. You tell the American people one thing, you tell your family an entirely different story. Also, on the night of the attack, you had a call with the president of Libya. Here's what you said to him. Ansar al-Sharia is claiming responsibility. It's interesting, Mr. Katala, one of the guys arrested and charged, actually belonged to that group. And finally, and most significantly, the next day, within 24 hours, you had a conversation with the Egyptian Prime Minister. You told him this: we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. Let me read that one more time. We know, not we think, not it might be, we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. State Department experts knew the truth. You knew the truth. But that's not what the American people got. And again, the American people want to know why. Why didn't you tell the American people exactly what you told the Egyptian Prime Minister?
Hillary and Barack Obama botched the hell out of what happened in Benghazi before, during, and after. And they lied to us about it. That's the bottom line. Now, if Trey Gowdy or Jim Jordan can come out this morning and say it like that the President of the United States and Hillary Clinton botched this before, during, and after, and lied to the American people about it. There was no video, and they knew it. There was no protest, and they knew it. When they told the families and the American people that there was, they were lying. If you've got 3-4 bullet points like that, then put out your 3 or 4 bullet points. Not 200 pages. The night before you release 802 pages, when 2 other Republicans have their own 42-page report on this, just to further confuse matters, so that your friends in the news media who are looking to torpedo you every day of the week have abundant opportunity to mock you instead of report the findings of your 2-year-long investigation. You get to the bottom of the story, you get to the truth, and then you reveal the truth like this. Chop, 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 chop. Here are the bang we didn't know before. Here are the bullet points. Boom, 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 boom. The night of the attack, they had a video teleconference where they dithered for hours. They thought the attack was over. How that's possible, I don't know. One hand was not communicating with the other hand, and they're arguing over what clothes the Marines should wear. Now, if they come out this morning and just hit that out of the park, then I'll take all this back. But if I can make a better case than they can, after years and millions of dollars and hundreds of interviews and thousands of pages of documents, and they get lost in the weeds on this thing.
And the best way to honor the commitment and sacrifice of those we lost is to redouble our efforts to provide the resources and support that our diplomats and our development experts deserve. So I'll leave it to others to characterize this report, but I think it's pretty clear it's time to move on.
A little bit more moments ago from Hillary Clinton at a campaign event in Denver, Colorado, on this report from the Select Committee, Republicans on that Select Committee on Benghazi. David Asman, in addition to what we mentioned before our last break, said that it was taken on a partisan tinge and we should all move on.
The best way to honor the people who died in that attack is to make sure that there is not another attack. Those of us who have families, particularly my son's a Marine. Marines are the ones who keep those embassies safe. I want to make sure that the next time something like this happens, other Marines are not going to be killed. What difference does it make? That's what difference it makes. It makes a lot of difference, and it honors the people who are now guarding the stations at various embassies around the world. It makes a huge difference what went wrong there to make sure that it doesn't happen again and more fine, decent, honorable Marines aren't killed again.
I'm told, we didn't have a chance to look in on it because it's happening right now, that Josh Earnest, the White House press secretary, has pretty much echoed Secretary Clinton's comments. Their thing is, this is partisan, something like the right-wing, conspiracy, that the idea, there's Josh Earnest.
Everything in D.C. is partisan. That's obvious. Everything is partisan. However, the Democratic version of this report mentions Donald Trump 23 times. If that's not partisan, I don't know what is. What does Donald Trump have to do with the Benghazi investigation? What does Donald Trump have to do with the mistakes that were made there that led to the deaths of 4 American citizens? Nothing is the answer unless you want to put a political tinge on this thing. That was what the Democrats did with their version of the report. Was the Republican partisan? Of course, everything in D.C. is partisan. I'm sure some of the 800 pages were, but the Democrats did exactly the same thing.
The fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?